Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Pawd Slama Jama. We have turned the page to week 3. It's Rice Week and the battle for the Bayou Bucket. On this episode, we'll kind of put our final touches on the Oklahoma game, what went well, what we are going to be looking for improvement heading into the Rice matchup, and of course, we'll start to get into specifics of the battle against the Owls. Joining me, as always, Jack Freeman, former Houston Cougars offensive lineman and captain. First and foremost, Jack, how are you doing, sir?
I'm good, man. Super excited to be at the game this week. Just go see a long time battle.
Yes, sir. You're going to be on campus at TDCU Stadium. So, hey, if you happen to see Jack Freeman walking down the tailgate, say hi to him. This is the first time you're going to get to experience kind of the other side of game day. And hopefully you get to enjoy your time before you actually head inside and hopefully get to see the Houston Cougars pick up their first win of the season. Anything you're most excited for about the tailgate? Anything that you might have heard you haven't seen the experience, or what's kind of your game plan for Saturday when it comes to tailgate?
I'm gonna, just act like I'm a just regular fan. Try to, just take it all in as just a regular spectator, going to support my Cougs, and I'm super excited to go see the Hogue Landscaping tailgate because that's where I'll be at for the most part. But I'm definitely gonna make my rounds around the stadium, go see what it's all about. I didn't get to really do that as a player, so I'm just super excited for that.
For sure. Once again, if you happen to see Jack during the tailgate, make sure you say hi to him and his first actual tailgate experience. So hopefully you have a great time when it comes to tailgating on Saturday. And like I said, hopefully you get to go inside the stadium and see the Houston Cougars pick up their first win of the season over Rice. But before we do get into that matchup against the Owls, let's talk about this past week when Houston went up to Norman and they gave Oklahoma all they could handle. They did a really good job of turning the page and putting together a much stronger performance. Obviously, not the result that we want yet, but much big improvement, both offensively, defensively. I think starting on the defense, they put together another strong performance, shutting out Oklahoma for that second half, and then they just did a phenomenal job of making that offense one dimensional. The front seven was making plays, they were containing the run game, and Houston had its chances. They just weren't able to put enough points on the board. But let's get your thoughts overall on the game, and we'll kind of go from there. But what were your overall takeaways from this past Saturday's 16-12 loss to Oklahoma?
Yeah, just like, I don't know if anybody saw my post on Twitter or X now, sorry. But man, I was super excited or just super proud of the way they all played. Every single position played their hearts out. And you could tell just watching them. Everybody was just like super shocked, which I was not. I've been a Houston Cougar for the past however many years. And, I'm going to stand by that and I'm going to support my guys. I was super proud of them, man. They went out there and, they executed well. They got on them right out at the jump. Just like I said, went 3 and out on the defensive side, had an unfortunate turnover right there on the punt. And that's one of the things that we, gotta fix and take care of. But, that's the thing. If you're facing a top 15 opponent, you can't do things like that. But overall, man, I think that they played their hearts out and nothing, they should be proud of that. And this should do nothing but, boost their confidence.
Yeah, those were kind of the two biggest plays that, unfortunately, they kind of ended up deciding or were the ultimate factors in terms of who won between Houston and Oklahoma. You mentioned that punt obviously led to points or that muff punt and led to points for Oklahoma. Questionable call whether the Houston player Muse touched the ball. I'm still not entirely sure whether he touched it, but the officials determined that it was Oklahoma possession, and the Sooners ended up scoring on that play. And then obviously going into the fourth quarter, the pin back deep, and they ruled that Stacey Sneed was tackled for a safety. I want to get your thoughts on that play because from my perspective, and we talked about it post game, it seemed like Stacey Sneed, to me, I felt he wasn't complete, like he wasn't, didn't have, it wasn't obvious, but I felt like he was at least a 6-inch yard line. He was out of the end zone, and then when the Oklahoma player tackled him and pushed him, that's what the momentum carried him into the end zone, and obviously it got called for a safety. So in my opinion, I don't feel like that was a safety, but the referees determined that it was. They didn't overturn it, and that ultimately ended up being the deciding factor in the game. But what were your thoughts on that play in particular that led to the safety, and just overall the offensive performance? I think we could both agree it was much better than it was week 1 against UNLV, but still 12 points is 12 points. They got to be able to put more points up on the scoreboard.
Yeah, I mean, just like, I don't know if y'all watched the game last week, the Chiefs and the Ravens. It's a game of inches. You know, it absolutely is a game of inches, and 6 inches can make the biggest difference in the game. You know, just like going back to the punt situation, whether he hit the ball or not, which I firmly believe that he did not. I mean, they played a camera angle, and they decided not to play that camera angle anymore. I don't know why, but it was pretty evident that, you know, he didn't touch it. And truth be told, as a football player, a smart football player, which Mekhi is, if you have any thought in your mind, especially in that moment, in that big of a game, if you have any thought in your mind that you touch that ball, you're going to go over there and you're going to grab the ball, let alone push it out of bounds. You're not just going to just chill out and just let the play go on, you know. So that was just that just blew my mind. And then going along with the safety situation, man, I'm the same way. I just didn't think that was a safety either. I think that, man, those are just huge plays. Those two alone that just shifted a lot of momentum that UH could have capitalized on. And I mean, I don't think that was a safety. There's not much to say about it. I just didn't think that it was. But I mean, the one thing that I will say is that the offensive line, I mean, we got to be able to hear the call. We can't go one way and it's supposed to be going the other way. So that's just one of the things that I think was a big factor on that play alone. But yeah, man, I mean, I just didn't think that either one of those calls were the right calls. And I mean, it definitely affected us.
Overall, offensively, what did you see from the Cougars? Donovan Smith had a much better, cleaner performance than he did week 1 against UNLV. Ended up finishing the game 24 of 28 on his pass attempts, put together 260 passing yards, threw for a touchdown, did have that one interception that ultimately didn't cost Houston when it came on the scoreboard because Oklahoma settled for a long field goal and they weren't able to convert it. I think we can agree he was much better offensively, and then even on the ground game, Houston was able to put together 58 total yards or net yards of rushing on the ground. Still not necessarily where it needs to be, but we got flashes. We saw burst here and there where you can build on, hopefully. And I think in particular there were a couple of plays made from both Stacey Sneed and Rashawn Sanford over the course of the outing. What you see in the ground game when it came to the Houston offense?
I mean, I think they both, you know, they all ran their, you know, tails off. I think the O-line did a way better job this week. I think that they came really, really prepared and just blocked and executed every play well. Obviously, there was a few plays that they, you know, didn't do their best on, but, you know, nobody's perfect. They're going to mess up here and there, but just bounce back and learn from it and just play the next play. Just like the passing game wise, though, you know, Donovan did throw he threw for a good amount of yards. He threw a touchdown to Man Jack. He was wide open. O-line gave him a lot of time to make that play, and, you know, can't do it without the O-line. So I'm really happy that they were able to step up this week, got to, you know, execute and take care of the blitzes, and, you know, was able to give Donovan some time back there.
Overall, what do you feel like it's gonna take for not only this week against Rice, but just once they get into Big 12 conference play to be able to just have more consistent drives? Because they had a couple of stretches where, I mean, they looked like a pretty good offense against an Oklahoma defense that they forced 6 turnovers against Temple the week before in a hostile environment, 100,000 plus people that were jam-packed from opening kickoff. They were making a lot of noise. They were into the game. And then there were also stretches, I think the second quarter in particular, honestly, the second quarter in general is a perfect, it's a perfect epitome for the Houston offense where they've just been inconsistent. They struggled to move the ball for a overwhelming majority of the quarter, and then the last drive right before halftime, they're able to put together a solid consecutive amount of plays that ends up leading to that field goal as time expired. What's it going to take for the offense to be able to be more consistent and, sooner rather than later start putting up more points?
I just think they just got to keep on getting better, man. I mean, it's kind of weird just because, like we used to always say, we play better away, right? And it's just one of those things where they're in a hostile environment. It's jam packed, like you said, right? And that just goes along back to what I was saying, before the past two times is we got to get some, people in the crowd and in the stadium, man. Like, I don't know what it is about being a player, but the more people that are there, the better you feel like you're going to play, and the more pressure that you have, and you're playing in front of all these people, I think it makes a difference. And I think that actually was kind of a factor why we did end up playing better. I know it's kind of weird, but it's just one of those things where, like, as a player, it makes sense to you. But just from an offensive standpoint, man, I think that we took a step in the right direction, and I think that on the ground game, we did well. I think we can always do better. And I think that, the passing game, Donovan definitely has some more yards that he can put up. And the receivers, I mean, they can do, they can do big things. We got a few guys other than Manjack that can do big things. Even Ray taking that little screen out for, I don't even know, like 20 plus yards. Like, that was awesome, man. That's just one of those things that we need, that excitement. Those are exciting plays to watch. And you could see how excited they were whenever Manjack scored, man. They were hyped up to go play.
Yeah. On the topic of excitement, and I'm going to ask you this, obviously, as the former Houston Cougars offensive lineman, but again, going back to that last drive at the end of the first half, seeing Donovan Smith throw a key block that really helped Stacey Snead pick up a lot of yards. Honestly, it was a key play in that drive that allowed them to put themselves in position to get points right before halftime. As an offensive lineman, you see your quarterback get a block like that for the running back. Does it add some extra juice for you guys to kind of what does that do for y'all when y'all see Donovan Smith, your quarterback, throwing a block out there for your running back?
If I see Donovan throwing his body on the line to go hit somebody, that's going to fire me up as an O lineman, especially, man, because that's our job, man. We're supposed to protect him, and he's over here protecting somebody else trying to go score. Like, that just shows you how much this game means to him, how much he wants to win, the drive, the competitiveness, all that, dude. Like, I mean, if I see Donovan do that, it just fires me up. And I know that they were super, super hyped after seeing that, man. I know I was watching it.
And then kind of last thing on the offense before I ask you a little bit on the defense, but when it came to that pick in the second half, what you see from Donovan Smith on that play, what's kind of the thing, not just him, but the offense in general, that they need to do to clean up that one mistake?
Yeah, just putting themselves in better situations. Don't put themselves in a bind. Don't get dumb holding calls. It just takes a lot of pressure off the quarterback if he's able to sit back there comfortably. And I mean, you could see it in Donovan's face, like I think he just kind of misread it. But just putting yourselves in better situations. And like, I remember this one play specifically. Dave had gotten a holding call. I think it was Dave, and one of our new receivers had gotten a first down and plus more, so that's just one of those things that we can't do, and we got to fix those type of things to make our quarterback and receivers feel comfortable and better.
I know I said that was going to be the last thing I asked about the offense, but I do also want to get your thoughts on this. Parker Jenkins so far to start the season, not the best start, not against Oklahoma, 7 carries for 10 yards. What's it going to take for Parker to be able to break out of the slump and start breaking a couple and start accumulating those yards in the ground game?
I think just keep on feeding him the ball. Let him keep on getting that confidence. He's confident as it is, but just keep on feeding him. Keep on feeding him. Trust him. Trust that he's going to get those yards. I mean, he's one of those explosive power backs. I mean, he's not going to be no Ray speed where you just, like, you give him the ball and he can, if it's to the outside with nobody there, he just breaks away. Like, Parker's fast, but he's more just a tougher, bigger, explosive back with good acceleration. So if you get him some open space, I mean, just keep on feeding him the ball. I mean, it's going to happen over time, but it's just consistency. Just give him the ball and just let him take care of it himself.
And now, one of the last areas that I want to touch on when it comes to this Rice game, or not this Rice game, this past game against Oklahoma, the phenomenal job that the defense did against that Oklahoma offense, they held them in check. Arnold Jackson, he looked like he was struggling for a multitude of that game. And really, when you think about it, when you take away the muff punt and the safety, they held that turned into 9 points. So they held Oklahoma to 7 points. If you look at it, not counting the extra field position that they gave them on that muff punt. Again, in a hostile environment, in that atmosphere, to hold that team to just 7 points offensively, that's a phenomenal job. And I think that's early on, that's got to be very, very that's got to create a lot of optimism for the Houston Cougars team overall as a whole. But I personally think that defense is going to be a problem once conference play begins. And even going back to what they did against UNLV, you take off the pick six, they only allowed the Rebels to score 20 points. That's the same UNLV team that turned around and put up 70 plus points in their week 2 matchup. So I think this defense has done. They've had a solid start to the season. There's areas here and there that they certainly can improve on and need to clean up when it comes to some of the mental errors that they made towards the end of that game. But in my opinion, I think opposing teams, starting with Rice, and then once they get into Big 12 play, they need to watch out for that Houston defense because they are going to make plays. And if the offense can start consistently making drives and putting up points, I think they're gonna be a big headache for a lot of teams. They might be able to, not even surprise, but they might give a lot of teams a big punch in the mouth, a wake up call once they play them if the offense can get rolling.
Yeah, man, I definitely agree. I think that just like I said, they made a 3-and-out right off the jump in a hostile environment. That's hard to do. They put a lot of pressure on the quarterback. They were getting through those gaps. The D-line was, especially the DBs were playing lights out. I mean, getting picks. Linebackers running across the field. It's awesome to see. A bunch of transfers, but they you could see that game. They started to mesh and they started to work well with each other, which is a really, really promising to see.
Yeah, you mentioned the transfers. One of the big names that really made a lot of plays, I think he literally had a tackle for loss on the opening play of the game, was Keith Cooper, who transferred over from Tulane, obviously following Willie Fritz from what he was able to do with the Green Wave over there. And he had made his presence felt over the course of the game. And I think overall, like you mentioned, I think this unit has certainly been the strong point for the Houston Cougars team early on in the season. And like I said, I think that they're going to have a chance to honestly be one of the strongest unit, not just when it comes to this team, but I think they might be towards the top end when it comes to the Big 12. Now, looking at it as a whole, I think one of the big phrases that came out of the week 1 loss when they were defeated by UNLV was Cougs not beating Cougs. And against Oklahoma, I think they did a much better job of cleaning that up, but still not where it needs to be. What say you when it comes to penalties, especially late down the stretch when we had a lot of, the biggest one has to be that fourth down. I believe it was 4th and 2, 4th and 3 deep in Oklahoma, was deep in its own territory, and they got Houston to jump offside, extended. They brought them a first down. They were able to chew up a lot more of the clock than it needed to be.
Yeah, those are the mistakes that we can't make, that I'm talking about, man, and everybody knows that. It's 4th and short. If they're trying to draw you off sides, it's just one of those things that's why we say ADO. It's just basically watch the ball. Don't watch the guy. Don't listen to anything else. Don't listen to the snap count. Just watch the ball, man. Like, play off the ball a little bit if you have to. If you know that you're a little bit jumpy and you want to go get a sack or go get a tackle for loss, like, that's awesome. I like that mindset, but you got to know, the game and, the situation of the game. Can't make those minimal errors that, happen. And it's just one of those unfortunate things that we got to fix it.
Gotcha. That's pretty much going to do it when it comes to our thoughts on the Oklahoma game. We're about to transition to talk about the upcoming matchup against the Rice Owls and the Bayou Bucket. But real quickly, before we do, like to remind everybody to hit the subscribe button if you are a new visitor to the Pawd Slama Jama YouTube channel. It's your one-stop shop for all things Houston Cougars football and basketball. And like I said, it's the easiest way to support the channel from growing. So make sure you hit the subscribe button. And while you're down there, make sure you hit a like on this video. It's, like I said, the easiest way to support us. And also like to remind y'all to check out the Let's Rage Cougs post-game show on both the Houston Roundball Review YouTube channel and right here on the Pawd Slama Jama YouTube channel, and also on our formerly known as Twitter, X platform as well. Be sure to catch us minutes after the conclusion of each Houston Cougars football and men's basketball game. So we'll be right back at it probably around 10:30-ish after Houston and Rice this upcoming Saturday. On that topic, it's the Bayou Bucket, Houston Rice. This is going to be the last meeting between these two programs for at least for the foreseeable future. Not necessarily sure when they'll schedule again down the line after the news over the summer that Houston and Rice had agreed to cancel their future scheduled games. So this might be it for a good while here. Obviously, when it comes to this matchup, going back to last year, Houston owes the Rice Owls a little payback for what happened at Rice Stadium. But before we get into any of the specifics, let's just talk about the game overall in general. One of the things that the former head coach, your head coach, obviously last year, used to always say is that you guys are playing for a trophy. It means a lot more when a trophy's on the line, and especially now from Houston perspective, they haven't had it for a year. What kind of was leading up to the matchup against Rice? What was always kind of the build for this game? Was there really that extra added motivation to go out and win the Bayou Bucket?
I mean, yeah, just like you said, this is for a trophy. It's what Coach Hogue used to always tell us. Like it does mean a lot more. It means a lot to the alumni, to former players. It means a lot, man. And it's one of those games that it's crosstown rivals. So you want to be the big dog essentially, and you want to be the bigger person to the bigger team, and go out there and win. It's for something. It's obviously you want to win regardless, but you want to keep that trophy up there in the alumni center. And just like you said, if we don't play this game for a while, I mean, we got to make it known that we had to get our get back. And last year was not it. It was not it, and a lot of people know that. So we got another chance to make up for it.
Let's get into some of the specifics with the Rice Owls. They're actually coming off a big lopsided victory over Texas Southern. They beat them 69-7 on the year. Rice enters with a 1-1 record. They lost to Sam Houston actually in their opening week game to begin the season. What are kind of some of the things that Houston needs to look for, and what areas specifically, when we look at it from the Cougars perspective, do they have to play really well in so they can come out on top and not only get their first win of the season, but obviously walk away with the Bayou Bucket on Saturday?
I think just controlling the trenches. Honestly, I think that's where it's going to be won. I think that our offensive line made a big step from this past game, and I think that it should give them a lot of confidence. Coach Nagabi started rotating a couple guys and keeping some guys fresh. And I think that was a really smart strategy. We didn't do that really last year too much. But, yeah, man, I think that it's just one in the trenches. I think that they have a good edge rusher, number 12. He's probably one of their best players on the defense. And so that's going to be a big challenge for the tackle specifically. One of their D tackles had transferred to Texas Tech. And, yeah, man, I think that it's going to definitely be one. Based off of our trenches performance, I think that D-line is going to take care of what needs to be taken care of. But if we can get the run game going and then get them DBs coming down, we can throw the ball over top. So that's what I think.
When it comes to a matchup like this, like you said, the importance of really winning the battle in the trenches, what kind of, I mean, how do you do that this might be such a broad question, but what kind of goes in either leading up to the game week? What's kind of like the preparation? And once you guys are actually in the game, like how do you guys kind of prepare to win the battle of the trenches? Because you hear that a lot, but I've always been curious, honestly, you from the offensive line perspective, what does it take to actually be ready on game days and win that battle?
I think something that's really important to win games is to simulate those things during practice throughout the week, and that's from like a scout team giving a really good look. And if they're going hard, man, it does make you mad, kind of, because you're like, hey, you're the scout team, but at the end of the day, it makes you better. And if the defense is playing lights out and they're stopping you, and that's a problem. So if scout team is doing a good job, I think that's one of the biggest things, if not the biggest thing, into preparation for the game, and just helping simulate like winning the trenches. But just being able to get the run game and attacking immediately and dominating just the guy in front of you. That's pretty much what winning the trenches means, is just beating the guy in front of you, dominating him.
Gotcha. When we look at this game, when we look at the Rice Owls specifically, a lot of new faces. Obviously, last year we talked about quarterback JT Daniels. Luke McCaffrey gave Houston problems for the past two matchups. They're, fortunately for Houston, no longer on the Rice team, but there is one familiar face that they're going to be facing on Saturday, and that's EJ Warner, who, Jack, I don't know if you remember, but you guys actually played him the last season. Y'all were in the American Athletic Conference, and even obviously you guys came out victorious in that game against Temple, but EJ Warner had a hell of a game against you guys. He put up over 400 yards and he looked phenomenal in that stretch. So Houston has first-hand experience of the type of quarterback that EJ Warner can be, but a lot of new faces for this Rice Owls team. Anything in particular about them that you maybe something to note, or some players that Houston needs to keep an eye on?
Just like I mentioned, I would say number 12 from the defense. He's probably their best player. He's going to be an NFL type guy, in my opinion. And I know EJ Warner. I saw that he is there. I know that he definitely gave us a run for our money the last time we had played him, whenever he was at Temple. I know he's a solid quarterback. So if we just go get some pressure on him like we did OU, I think that we'll be in good shape. And taking care of the D line, I think that if the offensive line prepares and plays well, I think we'll be in good shape.
Gotcha. When it comes to this matchup in particular, the last non-conference game of the year for Houston, it's been an intriguing non-conference game, but is there any truth kind of getting your thoughts as a player? Is there any truth of trying to finish non-conference with some positive momentum heading into Big 12 play? A week from now, they're going to be preparing for Cincinnati. And again, it's kind of unofficially the start of a new season once conference play begins, because obviously everyone starts 0-0 in conference play, and they're trying to battle their way up to ultimately win a Big 12 championship. How kind of, as a player, has been that transition, final non-conference game, gearing up for Big 12 play? What kind of is that mentally, if at all, heading into the last non-conference game of the season?
So yeah, I mean, there's a huge confidence boost if you can get in a win, especially a big win. This is a big win, man. It's a huge win, and it can definitely roll over to the next week. I mean, you saw last year kind of what that whole Texas to Kansas State thing. I mean, that was just a heartbreaker. And honestly, I think that we just didn't recover from it. It's just one of those things that we didn't recover from. Luckily, we did recover from it, from losing to UNLV. And I think that it was really promising this past weekend. And I think that, this is a big win, just like I said. If we can go out there, we can go put up a bunch of points on offense. It'll give them a bunch of confidence, because, we weren't able to score a lot of points against OU. But if we can go out there and score a lot of points against Rice, hold them to no points, I mean, that'd be a huge confidence boost, especially playing Cincinnati.
Is there anything else you wanted to mention about Rice in particular, or just Houston in general?
Yeah, I actually got to talk to Demetrius recently, though, and just get a little recap on what he had to say about the OU game. And I told him what I thought, and I told him that I was like, man, I think that y'all played y'all's hearts out. I think y'all should be proud. And he had everything to say, about it. And, he was definitely in good spirits about the game. I think that, they understand that that was a big stage for them, and it was a good opportunity. And, they obviously weren't able to win, and that's what the ultimate goal is. But they understand that they took a foot in the right, or a step in the right direction. And, so I know that they have a lot of confidence from this, and I think that it's going to be something really good for Houston coming up this weekend.
Gotcha. And really, the last thing when it comes to this game in particular, is there any one player that you're really, from a Houston perspective, is there one player that you're looking for the Cougars to have a standout game, or that you're going to be paying an extra eye on, whether it be on that offensive line, offense in general, or maybe on defense? Like I said, they've been making a lot of plays to start the season.
I think, what's his name? I think one of the guys that kind of stood out to me this past game against OU was the new receiver. I think his number was number 6.
The tight end, Malik Carr.
Malik Carr, yeah, I think that
Malik
he
Carr
stood out.
was.
He made
Mhm.
it. I mean, a play that stood out to me. Donovan kind of booted out to the right, it looked like, and he made one hell of a block, man. It was awesome to see that your tight end's going to work and blocking for your quarterback. And then also one of the new receivers, I think he's a Tulsa transfer, number 8. I might be mistaken.
Number 8 is Devin Williams.
Is he a Tulsa
Yep.
transfer?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, he stood out to me a lot too. I think he was making some plays, and obviously we got Boog, we got Manjack, we got Ray Parker. All of them are well-known guys. But yeah, man, I think those two alone stood out to me a lot, and I think that they're a big factor into this offense.
What are going to be the keys to the game for Donovan? What kind of game does he have to put together for Houston to be successful on Saturday?
Last year I think that we struggled a lot on offense, and I think this year we got to come out, swinging hard on offense. I think we got to take some shots down the field, and I think we got to hand the ball off and trust our running game. We got to make the right blocks. We can't go left if we're supposed to go right. And yeah, man, I think that Donovan has a lot of yards in front of him. That's what I think he's about to do, and I think that's what he's about to showcase.
Gotcha. Well, that's pretty much going to do it for today's episode of Pawd Slama Jama. Once again, I'd like to thank each and every single one of you guys that took the time out of y'all's day to support and watch today's episode. Once again, quick reminder, if you haven't done so already and you're checking us out on the YouTube channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button at the bottom of this video. Make sure while you're there, you hit the like button. It's the easiest way to support us. And once again, check out Let's Rage Cougs, the post-game show after Houston Rice on Saturday, minutes after Houston Rice on Saturday, both on the Houston Roundball Review YouTube channel and right here on the Pawd Slama Jama YouTube channel, or maybe if you prefer on X.com, obviously formerly known as Twitter. If you're listening to us on the audio-only platforms, we'd like to say thank you to you guys as well. Make sure you hit 5 stars on whatever platform you be, whether it be Spotify or Apple Podcast. And once again, we appreciate you guys just for taking the time out of your day to check us out. Jack, I'm going to toss it over to you. Where can people find you, and just any last comments? And once again, if you see Jack on Saturday, say what's up to him, because he's going to get his first real experience from the fan perspective of what it's like on game days.
Yeah, you can find my socials all at Jack Freeman IV. Just come out, support the Cougs, man. I'll be there this weekend. Super excited for this game. It means a lot. It's for a trophy, so that makes it that much more meaningful. And I'm super excited for the Cougs to get it back, man. We need that.
Yes, sir. Like you said earlier in the show, this is going to be the last meeting between Houston and Rice for the foreseeable future. So, winner of this game gets bragging rights for an extended period of time. That Bayou Bucket needs to be back in the Alumni Center, and we got to have the updated plaque, right? Houston's got to be the one that comes out victorious for the foreseeable future. Like I said, in this rivalry. Once again, thank you, Jack, for taking the time out of your day for talking about the Cougars. And as for me, people can find me on social media at Ayanez_5 on X.com. And again, just make sure you check us out Saturday after the game for Let's Rage Cougs. And no further ado, you always got to end. I'll take over for Dayon today because he couldn't join us. But go Cougs. We'll see you on Saturday.
Go Cougs.